Hi, it's Olga and it's the day 11 of my 25 Days of Christmas tutorial series. Today's project, just like the previous one, is going to be the Nutcracker themed. I'm going to create 4 cards today that are very unusual size and shape, and by the way, this format will work perfectly for place cards. To create the card base, I'll be using the largest die from the Perfect Castle die set by Paper Discovery. I'm also going to use a decorative insert from the very same set. So I've die cut 4 card bases out of cream cardstock and 4 inserts out of plain white cardstock. If you're interested in the supplies that I'm using, I have them listed down below in the description as well as on my blog. Since I'm not going to connect these shapes, I'm trimming off a tab from the side of each card base. Next, I'm going to apply the liquid glue onto the lacy strip, and I'm going to stick it down onto one side of the card base, which is going to be the front of the card. Then I'm folding each card base in half, which is very easy to do since the score line is created by the die. The size of each card is 8 3/4 by 1 3/4 of an inch. And now it's time to add my focal images, and I'm going to use those 4 shapes from Bring On the Dancers die set by Paper Discovery. There are more dies included in the set, but for this project I'll just go with those 4. I've die cut them a couple of times out of white cardstock, and I layered the die cuts to create more dimension and stability. I have also die cut and embossed the same shapes out of gold mirror cardstock. Here you have an option to stick down the entire golden die cut on top of the white one and use it on a project like that. But I'm going to take it one step further, and I'm going to trim down the golden die cut to only use some details. For this ballerina, I like to think of her as a sugar plum fairy. I'm only going to use the dress, so I'm trimming off everything that is not a dress. The dress is outlined by some debossed lines that are created by the die, so I'm simply using those lines as a guide and I'm cutting along them, and here I have my dress cut out. It's very similar to playing with paper dolls. Now I just have to apply some glue onto the die cut, and I'm going to stick it down onto the white one. With this next dancer shape, I'm going to use both the dress and the golden crown on her head. So again, I'm cutting out the details that I need, and then I'm sticking them down onto the main die cut. If you like to have more colors on your project, you can definitely go ahead and simply color those images, and this way they will look much more realistic. In this project, I'm mostly looking for textures and extra shine, so I'm going with the paper piecing. I'm using exactly the same technique for the next character as well. The last image I'm going to use is the Drosselmeyer, and this one seems to be the trickiest. So again, if I want the detail to be white, I'm just trimming it off, and if I want it to be golden, I'm leaving it. This technique is quite simple, and even with all that paper piecing, the project doesn't take too long to make. I think it's perfectly suitable for mass production. Now I'm sticking down the last golden details, and then I'm ready to attach my images onto the cards. So to do that, I'm simply applying some liquid adhesive to the bottom part of the die cut and I'm sticking them down closer to the edge of the card base. Since I have layered a few die cuts, each image is quite sturdy and it doesn't tend to bend or lean forwards or backwards. To create the sentiments, I'll be using the Elegant Words stamp set, also by Paper Discovery. Since my cards are over 8 inches wide, I can use quite long phrases here. Since most longer phrases come in 2 lines, I'm simply going to clip the stamp apart and I'm going to make 1 line out of 2. If you don't want to cut your stamps, you can of course go with the masking and stamp 2 lines separately. So I'm going to stamp 4 different phrases with the VersaMark ink on a piece of vellum, and then I'm going to apply some gold embossing powder. If you want these cards to be place cards, you simply have to replace the sentiments with the names of your guests. You can write the names on vellum with an embossing marker and then proceed with the gold embossing as usual. When I have all the phrases stamped, I'm heat setting the images. And now I'm going to cut all the sentiments apart, creating the long strips. Since I'm planning to create scrolls, it's very important to leave quite a lot of space at both sides of the sentiment, I mean at the right as well as at the left. You can totally use your paper trimmer for that, but I'm going with the craft knife and the cutting mat since I can see better where I'm cutting this way. One of the sentiments saying it's time for a little magic is curved, so for this one I'm going with the scissors and I'm kind of following the curve of the phrase. And now it's time to create the curves. I'm simply wrapping the vellum around the skewer. You can also use a toothpick or a quilling tool if you have one. I'm going to curl one side of the scroll towards me and the other side outwards. Creating sentiment scrolls is a very simple technique and you won't require any special tools, but it's really effective and it really creates that festive feel. To attach the sentiment strips onto the cards, I'll be using the hot glue. I'm using 1 drop of glue to kind of hold the scroll together, and then I'm going to use another dot of glue to stick that scroll onto the card. If you are applying the hot glue just behind the scrolls, no one is going to see the traces of adhesive. I'm going to attach all 4 sentiment scrolls exactly the same way, and it's very quick to do since the hot glue dries in a matter of seconds. Now my cards are nearly ready and all they are missing is of course some pearls. I'm going to add just a few pearls to each image. Here I'm adding 1 to the crown and a few more to create the belt. For masculine figures, I'll be using the pearls for buttons. Now all my 4 cards are finished and this is what they look like. By the way, the card bases are much bigger than they might seem, so there's more than enough space inside to add a personal message. I really hope you enjoyed today's tutorial. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great weekend and come back soon for the project number 12. Bye bye!